Welcome to the 7th episode of True Gambling Stories. I'm writer and host Sean Chapin, and I really want to thank all you guys who download and listen each month. We really appreciate all you who have told a friend or shared on social media. The show just continues to grow, and we really thank you for that. If you missed any episodes, it's pretty easy to catch up. Just visit pokernews.com and click on the podcast link. Or visit your favorite podcast platform and subscribe or leave a 5-star review and comment. That really helps us out a lot. Also, if you're looking for more stories about poker and gambling, please buy my book, Raising the Stakes, available on Amazon. I really think you guys will like it. And if you're ready for a good gambling story, we've got one for sure this month. Since our first show, we've highlighted stories involving poker, craps, sports betting, horse racing, and even a casino in the Nevada State Prison. This month, True Gambling Stories follows the bouncing ball and heads to the roulette wheel. But this isn't about a guy who just took a few $100s out of his wallet and betted on his lucky number. No, this story involves much more. A massive bet that most of us would never imagine. 6 figures, one spin of the wheel. That's it in a nutshell, but there's so much more. Betting it all on red, a 6-figure roulette wager. It must have seemed like a good idea at the time. 32-year-old Ashley Revelle was looking to do something different, something life-changing, something people would notice. Ashley is from Maidstone in the county of Kent in southwest England. His friends must have thought he was crazy back in 2004. No sane man would really want to do what he had in mind. His mother and father both thought it was a silly, stupid notion. He was a good-looking guy after all, and should be looking to settle down, not taking off on flights of fancy. The idea had been hatched after having a few beers down at the pub with some friends. Most crazy ideas that friends envision over beers seem to disappear pretty quickly. The buzz wears off, and so does the imagination. The next day, however, the idea just kept nagging at him. Ashley just thought about what an amazing experience it would be. After some thought, Ashley decided to put his plan into action. All his worldly possessions went up for sale, even his clothes. He headed to auctions to earn a few bucks. His Rolex, a BMW, and golf clubs were all sold. Ashley even drove to what the British call a boot sale, basically a sale of items from the trunk of one's car. Like a going out of business sale, everything had to go. But what was Ashley planning? Was he going to chuck it all and sail around the world? Did he have an idea for some strange new business? Maybe he was giving it all to charity. No, Ashley had other plans. An occasional poker player, he had a real interest in gambling. The thrill of action and putting a hefty amount on the line. What was that scheme Ashley hatched with those friends over a few beers? He would sell everything he owned, scraping together as much money as he could. He'd then take it all to Las Vegas and put every last dime on one spin of the roulette wheel. As he later told the Telegraph newspaper, it was now or never. The French Revolution had quite an impact on gambling that is still seen from casinos in Monte Carlo to Las Vegas to your neighborhood poker game. After dethroning the monarchy, aces replaced kings as the highest cards in a deck. Quite a blow to French royalty. There were other changes too. As David Schwartz notes in his book Roll the Bones, The History of Gambling, quote, "The revolution's chief impact was to briefly change the composition of the French deck. With the ascension of the Republic in the 1790s, gambling with pictures of kings, queens, and their retainers became decidedly passé. Those customary cards featuring pictures of royalty were replaced by symbols of liberty and heroes of the Revolution and new government, such as Voltaire, a writer, historian, and philosopher who advocated freedom of speech and religion and the separation of church and state. But the changes in playing cards didn't stick, and gamblers were soon back to those traditional cards we have come to recognize today, with kings, queens, jacks, and even a joker. As for roulette, there are various accounts of the game's origin. But it was around this time, right after the French Revolution, that the modern game we see in today's casinos began to take shape. The English had begun playing a game called roly-poly in 1720. The game featured a small ball spinning around a wheel with small slots. The game was also called Roulette, Rowlet, and 2 slots on the wheel gave the house an automatic win of all bets. Another similar game featured cards painted on the wheel. Both games were eventually outlawed by Parliament in 1739. But gambling houses began to adapt, employing another similar game called odds and evens. The game was simple. There were 40 numbers painted on the wheel, the same number of even numbers as odd numbers. Players bet their shillings on a number or on even or odd, and won or lost depending if the ball landed on an even number or an odd number. There continued to be one catch, however. 2 slots remained automatic house wins, the 0 and double 0, and everyone's bets were swept off the board. By the 1700s, these games had also spread to France, and by 1796, all 3 games had been combined into one, with the modern wheel and table layout that gamblers have come to recognize today. One change was made from the British games, however. The colors changed from black and white to red and white. Eventually, European casinos made use of a wheel with a single 0, but the game in the United States took on that second 0. The game remains popular throughout the world, with millions of Americans plunking a few bucks down each year. Almost 200 years later, that French innovation is a mainstay in almost every major casino. The game was an example of the French passion for gambling throughout the country's history. Even Napoleon Bonaparte was known to visit some of the country's gambling salons. As David Schwartz notes in Roll the Bones, even at times of revolutionary crisis, the French remained inventive gamblers, and not even the chaos of revolution and war could stop the wheels from spinning. Roulette can make for a great night out with some friends. Everyone sips a cocktail and picks a few favorite numbers to drop some chips on. It's a game with a big house edge, but the action isn't too fast, which can work out for those looking to just pass a few hours having some fun. Richard Munchkin has been a writer and professional gambler for 30 years. He co-hosts the Gambling with an Edge podcast and is the author of the book Gambling Wizards, Conversations with the World's Greatest Gamblers. He offers some insight on playing roulette.
Well, unsophisticated gamblers find roulette to be a fun game because it's very easy for them to understand how to play. When they come to a casino, sometimes blackjack or craps can be intimidating because in craps there's so many different kinds of bets and they play so many different things, and people have a hard time really just understanding the game. And sometimes the same with blackjack, whereas roulette, you can walk up and it's very easy to know, I can bet on red or black, or I can pick a number, or I can pick a bunch of numbers. So I think people find that a very easy game to play.
Many players may not realize, but roulette is also a good game for the house. It has a nice edge of a bit over 5% on most bets on the board. Even just betting red or black, of course, is not a 50-50 wager.
The game is not exactly 50-50 because there are a number of zeros. So there are 36 numbers, half of them are red and half of them are black. And in Europe, they've added 10, which is green. So you have 18 of one color, 18 of another color, and then the one green. So your chance of winning is 18 out of 37 in Europe. Now in America, they got a little greedier and they added 2 zeros. So there's a single zero and a double zero, which are both green. So now you have 18 out of 38. And now the move in Las Vegas, because they just keep trying to squeeze every dollar they can out of people, is some of the places have actually added a third zero to the roulette wheel. So they have a single zero, double zero, and a triple zero, just to make it that much worse for the players.
Winning wouldn't be easy for Ashley Revelle. He had a 46.37% chance of winning, not quite 50-50. And while it was only one spin, those Las Vegas casinos weren't built by losing money. Those small edges on games contribute to billions of dollars. In fact, casinos in Clark County, Nevada generated gambling revenue of $9.6 billion in 2017. Las Vegas has certainly seen its share of gamblers with big dreams of hitting it rich. Many of us have had that one friend who gambles so much that he barely makes it home with the shirt on his back. Would Ashley Revelle literally be that guy? Ashley's dream bet didn't stay quiet for long. The crazy idea attracted plenty of media attention. Sky TV even agreed to film the roulette spin for a documentary called Double or Nothing. Ashley began his plan with about £10,000 in savings. After selling everything and some extra cash for promoting a British online gambling site, his bankroll came to $135,300. Back in Maidstone, that could have bought a pretty nice place for a single guy. But Ashley was determined to go through with the wager. As he said, it was now or never. Finding a casino to take Ashley's action wouldn't be easy. A bet of $135K is a big bet even in Las Vegas. A player doesn't just walk up with a suitcase full of cash and put it on black. Most casinos' maximum bets allow players only between $1,000 and $10,000 on a single wager. After some searching, a downtown casino stepped up to the plate. The Plaza offered to take Ashley's bet. The casino was a big part of downtown Vegas and seemed like a natural location for this crazy roulette spin. The Plaza opened in 1971 as part of a partnership that included casino impresario Sam Boyd. The property was originally known as Union Plaza. The site had been Las Vegas's first train depot, and the Union Pacific Railroad had rumbled into the station since 1906. The station was demolished in 1970 for the new casino. But even after the demolition, a small waiting area remained for Amtrak trains, which continued until 1997. The Amtrak station and ticket windows were actually connected to the Plaza, and it was the only train station in the country located in a casino. Through the years, the Plaza became an important Vegas property and gained a resurgence after recent renovations. The casino has played many roles in pop culture as well. Back to the Future fans might be interested to know that the casino was used a bit in the second sequel. In the scenes where Marty McFly is trapped in this dystopian alternate timeline, Biff Tannen's Pleasure Paradise Casino Hotel was modeled on the neon light signs at the Plaza. The band Starship used images of the property in the video for its song, "We Built This City on Rock and Roll." The song is panned by critics as the worst song in rock and roll, but features many scenes of gambling in downtown Vegas in the video. The song makes some references to the cities of Los Angeles, San Francisco, Cleveland, and New York City. Strangely, however, Vegas is not mentioned in the Starship song. Sin City apparently wasn't built on rock and roll. But it was built on gambling. And after 6 months of selling everything he owned and finding a casino to take his bet, Ashley Revelle was ready to go. It was a festive day at the Plaza in downtown Las Vegas that Sunday morning on April 11, 2004. It was a beautiful spring day outside. The high was expected to be 75 degrees, perfect for a walk along the historic strip or a stroll downtown. But Ashley wasn't just there to sightsee. Money was on his mind. At 11 a.m., he headed toward the table. The casino was packed with onlookers that morning. They cheered as Ashley made his entrance toward the roulette wheel. He was dressed sharply in a white collared shirt and a dark suit. It was apparently one of only 2 outfits he still owned. Ashley approached the roulette table with supporters packed in behind him. A wild smile lit up his face, knowing that everything he owned was about to be on the line. That $135,300 in life savings now amounted to just a handful of chips in front of him. He smiled and counted it all out on the felt, 2 stacks of yellow chips and a few blacks. It was all there. 26 yellow chips worth $5,000 each and 3 black $100 chips. Ashley had originally considered putting his money on black, but reconsidered and ultimately decided red might be lucky that day. Sky TV viewers agreed. The network had run a poll with a majority picking red as well. If that marble landed on green or black, Ashley would lose everything he owned. No doubt, back home he had become the subject of many discussions for others sipping a few beers at the pub. Ashley's head was clear and he felt good, even confident. He told the Telegraph newspaper in 2013, quote, "The night before I slept like an absolute baby. There were no concerns whatsoever. Thinking back, it sounds crazy, but I was so convinced I was going to win. I was literally going down there to collect my winnings." End quote. Winnings? That was still to be determined. For its part, the Plaza wanted to make sure that he really wanted to go through with the bet. There was still time to back out, and a casino representative behind the roulette wheel asked him if he wanted to reconsider his wager. Here's the actual audio from that day, courtesy of Sky TV.
Ashley, why don't you take a moment, get yourself composed, then we'll go over the rules of the game.
Are you sure you want to make this bet with your life savings?
Yeah, I'm certain.
I want you to know we would never knowingly condone or accept someone taking a wager of their entire life savings, but we know that this is a culmination of a grand adventure for you, and hopefully the start of many more and more interesting adventures.
Thanks.
To that extent, once you're ready, just give me a head nod and we'll start it. Once the ball is in the track and spun, if you haven't declared yourself before the ball has traveled 2 times around the wheel, we will call it a no bet and we'll start again. Is this acceptable to you?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Ashley licked his lips a bit and took a deep breath, at first a bit indecisive. Should he stay with red or shift his bet to black? Maybe he should just call the whole damn thing off. The dealer whipped the ball around that spinning wheel. After one revolution, Ashley grabbed his chips and slid them to red. So what actually goes through our brains when we gamble? What possesses people to take their hard-earned money and put it on a horse or a poker game, or in Ashley Ravel's case, one spin on the roulette wheel? Certainly gambling can make for a nice time out with some friends, but you can do that at a dance club or a bowling alley or any other number of places. So why gambling? What do we get out of it? Dr. Tricia Cardner is a former psychology professor turned poker player and the author of Positive Poker and Peak Poker Performance. Cardner knows firsthand what goes through our brains when we place that bet.
Is that when we do any activity as a human being that keeps us alive, what happens is dopamine gets squirted out in the brain, and that makes us feel pleasure and well-being. Well, when we look at gambling and even drugs, what we see is that they cause this reward system to dispense about 10 times the dopamine that we would usually get from eating or having sex or something like that normally keeps us alive. So what happens is this causes an intense rush.
That dopamine rush can then decline and isn't sustainable. The more we gamble, the less dopamine the brain produces. Most of us can deal with this, but for some, this can be how problem gambling develops.
Essentially, what's happening is when we first start gambling, we're getting this, rush, but over time, we're going to build up a tolerance, and it's going to take larger and larger effective doses, if you will, to get that same high.
We've all heard the sad tales of people who have gambled away their life savings on sports or on slot machines. While Ashley's story is a little bit different, why doesn't everyone have a problem gambling as we look for more of that dopamine rush? It all comes back to a different part of the brain.
So that's a really interesting thing to think about, because the research shows that probably 99% of people do not become problem gamblers. And when we look at why does someone become a problem gambler, again, we have to go back to the brain and how that is all set up. So besides the dopamine rush, we also have to look at the prefrontal cortex, So essentially, as we're getting those huge dopamine rushes, we're also getting a weakening between the circuits from the reward system to the prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex is that front part of the brain. It's right behind the forehead, and it's, what causes us to make good decisions, analyze, plan, evaluate risk, all those sorts of things. Now, what's extremely interesting is with problem gamblers in particular, they show less electrical activity in their reward centers. So that means that it takes a lot more for a problem gambler to get that pleasure rush than it does the non-problem gambler.
It's a complicated condition, but gambling can cause some pretty dramatic changes in the brain. Those who become problem gamblers may also have some other different brain structures, Cardner says. But how all these dynamics come together is still a bit of a mystery.
It takes something really huge for the problem gambler to get, the same reward that it would take you or I to get, right? It would take a lot less for me. So believe me, I would never sell everything I own and go put it all on red.
So most of us can handle a night out at the casinos, putting a couple $100 on the craps table, or heading out to the track to bet on the ponies. But what about Ashley Revell? One thing is sure, when he stepped up to that spinning wheel, he was about to get the biggest dopamine rush of his life. Back at the plaza, that ball seemed to spin forever. Ashley felt that his life had stopped in time. The ball spun around several times as an anxious crowd looked on. Around it went, at least 4 times before it began to slow, its trajectory suddenly angling down toward the numbers on the spinning wheel, a mix of red and the dreaded black and green. The marble bounced a few times and then found its home in one of the 38 slots. At first, Ashley couldn't make out what color the ball landed on. He thought it was red, but it disappeared briefly as the ball circled around out of view. Then it wheeled back into view. It sat right on number 7. The color? Red. The crowd erupted into cheers. Ashley yelled and pumped his fists in the air. His mother wrapped her arms around him in a huge hug. His father gave him a big congratulatory handshake. Of course, someone brought in a bottle of champagne. It was time to celebrate. Rosie Corona is the Plaza's director of table games and worked as a table games pit boss at the time. She remembers the energy in the room after the ball landed on red.
It was crazy. When it happened in the morning, the casino was very busy. It was a great atmosphere. Actually, he had all his family and friends there, so it was a pretty good crowd. We were all cheering him up. Even before that, like when the zero was ready to spin, he was telling us that he was going to bet on black. So we all thought he was going to bet on black, but he told us that all his family and friends were telling him to bet it on red. So he was very undecided what he was going to do, and us too. We had no clue what he was going to do, because for sure we thought that he was going to bet it on black. And at the end, at the last minute, he put his bet it on red, and sure did. 7 red came out, so we were all just screaming and happy and clapping and just very excited for to see him win.
Even the casino staff were happy to see Ashley's bet come through.
We really wanted for him to win. All of us. I mean, even the casino, all his family and friends, everybody. So it was very excited. I've been in this business for 19 years. I've been here for 19 years. Never seen anything like that. And it was just very exciting to see, that wager, because I've never seen that in any casino.
It seemed unimaginable that his gamble had really paid off, and the cheers, hugs, and high fives never seemed to end. Ashley defied the odds and turned his cash into more than $270,000. After the win, he spoke with Sky News about the bet and the scene that day at the Plaza.
You know, it's all down to my friends and family, really. My mum, my dad, all my friends. If I didn't have their backing, you know, I would never be able to do this. But I knew even if I lost, I've always got a home to go to.
While he had plenty of supporters, not everyone hoped that Ashley's bet turned out in his favor. Here's a clip from Sky News after a segment on his win. One newscaster wasn't impressed and probably spoke for many.
Brave man.
He is brave. I would have liked to see him lose. But that'd teach him what a stupid thing to do.
Ashley tipped the dealer $600 and returned back to his hometown of Maidstone. He used some of his winnings to invest in an online poker operation. His luck didn't hold on that bet, and the company eventually folded. The wager did bring him one unexpected win, however. After returning to England, Ashley made one big splurge, a trip across Europe by motorcycle. While traveling, he met a woman in Holland. They are now married and have 2 children. Looking back at that time in Vegas, Ashley says he learned a lot from that wild bet that had been hatched over drinks with friends. He told the Telegraph newspaper, "It was just a crazy time of complete happiness. The whole experience taught me what is really important in life isn't Rolexes or flashy cars, but sentimental things." So maybe the next time you're at your local casino or on your next trip to Las Vegas, drop a $5 on red. Maybe your luck will turn out like Ashley's. And if it doesn't, you still have everything else you own. Hey guys, this is Sean Chafin from the True Gambling Stories podcast. I'm really thrilled to welcome the Bernard Lee Poker Show to the Poker News Podcasting Network. Be sure to check out my show and his show for everything going on in the world of poker. Thanks so much for listening and downloading this episode. It's a real thrill to put this together each month. We really enjoy it. I love these old gambling stories, and I know a lot of you out there do too. And if you do like us, please let others know and subscribe. We so appreciate you guys sharing the show on social media and just simply telling a friend. Please, please, please leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, or wherever you guys access the show. Remember, an easy way to find the podcast, just check it out on pokernews.com, and you can also use the easy link truegamblingstories.com. A big thank you to our guest, Dr. Tricia Cardner. She is the co-host of the amazing podcast Poker on the Mind and also runs peakpokermindset.com. The site offers a free mental training course called Ramp Up Your Poker Success. So go take the course and beat your friends at your next poker night. She is also the author of Positive Poker and Peak Poker Performance. You can learn more about her at drtriciacardner.com. Also, a big thank you to guest Richard Munchkin. Be sure to check out his podcast, Gambling with an Edge, and purchase his book, Gambling Wizards, Conversations with the World's Greatest Gamblers. I also want to thank Rosie Corona with the Plaza Casino for her insight on that day back in 2004. Maybe you can say hi to her next time you're at the casino. True Gambling Stories is written and hosted by me, Sean Chafin. Robert Moreno does a fantastic job editing the show and putting it all together. Please visit us on Facebook at True Gambling Stories, and on Twitter you can find us at GamblingPod. You can also follow me on Twitter at Poker Traditions, where I post a lot of my written work. You can also read more of my work at SeanChafin.com. We always need story ideas. If you have an idea, please let us know. And lastly, for all your poker and gambling news, information, videos, podcasts, and my feature writing and reporting, please visit pokernews.com.